Today I'm going to talk about congruence and in particular triangles. So what does congruent mean? Well, congruent means that when you're comparing two shapes, if they're congruent, they are exactly the same size and exactly the same shape as each other. They are purely identical. So I'll just draw two triangles that are congruent, and we'll talk a little bit about labeling them. Let's suppose I've got 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters and 6 centimeters here. And I'm going to draw another triangle. Let's go upside down. And I've got 4 centimeters here. Let's suppose 6 centimeters here and then 5 centimeters here. Now, if you've got two triangles that are exactly the same size as each other, yes, they're triangles, and they've got the same measurements on there, they are congruent. Now, usually when we talk about congruence, we need to come up with a way of making a congruence statement. So I'm just going to label these triangles with some capital letters. So A, B, C, and then I'm going to go D, E, F. Now, you'll notice I took a little bit of time to think about the order there, and order is very important to how you label and make a congruence statement. If I talk about this triangle, once I've picked the order, I need to set the same order for this triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go along AB, which is along the 4 centimeter line, the 4 centimeter line where A began, joined with the 6 centimeter line. So I would be talking about D to E in this direction if I'm going A to B in this direction. So triangle A to B to C is congruent. Now, the symbol that this textbook you use in Year 9 uses for congruent is a wiggly line with 2 equal signs. However, some textbooks use just 3 lines together. So triangle ABC is congruent too. Now, I've got to go along in the same direction. So we start at this corner, we go along to this one, and then we go up the 5 centimeter line. So this triangle would be DEF. Now, we have to then say, well, how are they congruent? Well, in this case, it's obvious that they're the same size as each other because we have 3 sides that are identical. This test of congruence is called side, side, side. But do you need to know all 3 sides of a triangle or 2 triangles to know if they are congruent? And the answer is no. You can have less information than 3 sides, or perhaps 2 sides and 1 angle, so not all 3 sides, but just 2 sides and 1 angle to say that they are congruent. And the reason being is because if I asked you to draw a triangle, let's talk about constructing a triangle. If there were 2 people in the room and I said, right guys, I want you to construct a triangle. I'm going to give you a side, an angle that's in between those 2 sides, and another side. So let's set some say I say 12 centimeters can be one of the sides. The included angle I'm going to say is 51 degrees, and the other side going to be 7 centimeters. If I put you to work and said, right, construct that triangle, both of you would draw me identical triangles, assuming you did it properly. You'd get your ruler, you'd set one of these as perhaps the base, possibly. Of course, remember, if they're rotated round, doesn't matter as long as they're the same size as each other. You'd get your ruler, you'd draw 12 centimeters across. Obviously, I'm not doing this exact. You'd then get your protractor. You'd line it up because it's an included angle between the 2 sides. You'd put your protractor up, you'd measure exactly 51 degrees, and you'd probably make a mark. And then you'd join up this line to this, and you'd make it exactly 7 centimeters, right? So you would be left with that. Now, the other person who drew it would also do the same. They might well start with a 7 centimeter base and then do the 12 afterwards with the included angle of 51. But it doesn't matter if it's a rotation, a reflection, they would be the same. Now let's look at what we've got. We've got this angle of 51 degrees. So 2 people will draw this. Now, there is no possible other length for this line here. No matter which orientation we've drawn this is going to be identical to the other person's triangle, this length from this point to this point. Just by having the side, the included angle and the side, we've got 2 people who've drawn the same triangle, which means that's a test of congruence because they would be exactly the same size as each other. So side angle side, where this is an included angle, is a test of congruence. And there are other tests of congruence that you can also go through. For example, RHS. RHS says if you know that you've got 2 right angle triangles, a hypotenuse that's the same size and one other side, then two triangles are congruent to each other. And the final test is if you've got angle, side. Two angles and the length of another side, you can say that the two triangles with this minimal information are definitely congruent through this test. And the way that you label your triangle, of course, remember the order matters. It has to correspond with the other triangle you're trying to say is congruent to.